You guys, if you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, you need to. It's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. Anchor has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcast, and more. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. And best of all, Anchor is totally free. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Welcome to Mimesis, the podcast about all the twisted ways that art and life imitate each other. I'm Stacey Rourke.
And I'm Sandra Sheriff-Zackerly.
And we're like your hosts and stuff. I don't even care about that part. Let's just get to the fun stuff.
I was going to say, well, are you going to finish?
I don't care. Let's go. Okay.
Today will be no talking.
All I'm going to say, we have a Twitter account now. It's at Mimesis _ podcast. Find us there. And we're not going to do any talking this week because
I do have to make one revision. I know.
You're killing me, Smalls. Okay. I'll be cool. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So when we were talking about Channing Tatum in Public Enemies, and we said he was wee baron, he was a little bit older.
How old was he?
29.
Oh, he's not a baby then.
No. No.
Okay.
No. He was
that's
29.
Fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Okay, correction made. And I think we need to let people know why I'm so excited. But also I'm a little scared about this particular topic for a couple reasons. I'm excited. I'm so excited, but also I'm a little nervous because you as a family member know how crazy I get when I'm all into something.
Yes.
I go full nerd girl over it. And I think people are going to see here how extreme I get in my nerdness when I like something.
Nerd girl side.
Big time. So should we just get right into it then? Can I?
Yeah, we have to.
Can we go? Okay, good.
I love you so much.
This week, we are going to be talking about Elvis Aaron Presley, his life versus the new movie Elvis that just came out.
Yes.
Okay, before I'm going to rant. So I'm just going to ask you watched it.
I literally just finished watching it 10 minutes ago.
And what were your thoughts on it?
I don't know. It's been 10 minutes. I liked it.
Okay.
But there's a lot that I don't know much about Elvis. So it's
well, we're going to change that.
I don't have a lot to compare it to.
Yeah. We're going to change that today.
Yeah.
I have been watching this movie pretty much on a nonstop loop. I'm not kidding. I work from home. I like to have background noise. Normally, I will have podcasts on, and I still have listened to my podcast, but in between those, I have the Elvis movie playing on a nonstop loop.
Yeah.
Because it's the soundtrack, it's the performances, it's the Elvis of it all.
Yeah.
And literally I want a shirt that says it. It's the Elvis of it all. It's incredible.
The kid who did it, I don't even know his name, the actor.
Austin Butler.
Nailed it.
Oh my God. So much so. Much so.
I showed Scott a picture of Elvis and I was like, he looks so much like him.
It's funny you say that because I was watching the movie one of the times with my girls, and Ellie made some comment about Austin Butler at the beginning of the movie, and he was like, he looks like a young John Travolta. Girl, I paused the movie. I was like, what did you just say? She's like, he looks like a young John Travolta. I'm like, no. So I pulled up a side-by-side of Austin and Elvis. I was like, he looks like Elvis. He does not look like John Travolta. No offense to John Travolta, but Elvis is Elvis. So yes. I have been a huge Elvis fan since I was a little girl, there's a reason I think the Lilo and Stitch soundtrack is one of the best Disney soundtracks. It's because it's got Elvis music in it. Little known fact, Elvis died 1 month before I was born. So I missed being on the planet with him by like this much.
So it was literally the anniversary of his death was yesterday.
Yeah. And my birthday's coming up. So so we didn't get to share the planet for any kind of time. But yes, I'm a huge fan, and I was very excited to see this movie. I was worried I was going to hate it at first because I didn't know how they were going to do it.
Yeah, I could see that. Being a fan and not knowing.
And I worried about Priscilla and Lisa Marie and how he would be viewed by other people, this person that they love so much. But I think they did it so respectfully. And even the family has had really good things to say about Austin's performance. We'll get into that later. But as we do this, I'm not going to go scene by scene and dissect everything because
there's
so much. So we're just going to touch, we're going to go in chronological order, but we're going to touch on a few things. Another reason I'm not going to do everything is because I want everybody listening to this to see the movie, experience it, and form your own opinions because it's worth it. Yeah, it's worth it to see. Even if you're not a fan of Elvis, like your Uncle Jay, my husband, he's not a huge Elvis fan. But this past weekend, I was like, I've been talking about it so much. Can you please just sit down and watch it with me? And he did, and he got done.
I just need you to know what I'm talking about. I just need you to watch it.
And he did, and he was, first of all, he was like, no, that was a good movie. That was a good movie, great performances. And then later on, he was like, was your intention with that to get Elvis music stuck in my head? And, your uncle has a good singing voice. So I was like, you're damn right. That was my intention.
Yeah.
So before we tear into the movie, I do want to call out some of the director and the cast. This was directed by Baz Luhrmann. And it was obviously a labor of love for him. It was perfectly executed, absolute masterpiece. Tom Hanks is in it as Colonel Tom Parker. You can't go wrong with Tom Hanks. I mean, there's a reason everybody loves him. Pausing there for just a minute. Did you see the paparazzi footage of the paparazzi dude that nearly knocked Tom Hanks' wife Rita down, and Tom Hanks yelled at him and told him to back the fuck up?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, I've never seen that man do anything like that.
If Tom Hanks yelled at me, I would just break down sobbing.
Yeah.
I would feel like I had disappointed like an angel. I'm sorry I am this way. Yeah. And then as Elvis, we already talked a little bit about Austin Butler.
Yes.
I didn't know who he was other than seeing him like in tabloid photos, or he walked the Met Gala red carpet this year actually with Priscilla Presley. But I didn't know much about him before any of this. Holy shit. There are millions of Elvis impersonators in the world.
Yeah.
That's not what he did here. He studied Elvis's mannerisms, his life, his voice, any subtle nuance that made Elvis who he was. And he rolled it all together in his performance. And it was, I will die on the hill that Austin Butler deserves an Academy Award for his performance. Absolutely. Yeah. I think he was just phenomenal.
He was. I agree with you on that.
Thank you. Okay.
So I got the feel of the movie.
Yes.
It kind of made me feel, when I was watching it, just a tiny bit of Moulin Rouge.
I can see that.
And you want to know why?
It's the same guy.
It's the same guy. I just liked that.
Yeah, it's the same guy.
And I was like, yes, of course. That's why.
Did he do the Leonardo DiCaprio Romeo and Juliet?
Yes.
Because I got some. Yeah, I thought so. I got some vibes of that there too.
I don't think I've seen that one. But he did The Great Gatsby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got that flair, but you know what?
Yeah.
For this in particular, that flair that he has, it fit Elvis so perfectly.
Yes.
It fit the glitz and glamour that is
Yes.
Elvis on stage. Yeah.
The Las Vegas.
Yes.
Yeah.
It rolled in together perfectly.
Yeah.
I will say before we get into too much of this, my 14-year-old, who we have talked about, she doesn't normally communicate her feelings on things, but she was watching the opening where Elvis is down on Beale Street, and he's intermingling with the Black community at a time that there were segregation laws. And Madeline, my 14-year-old, made the comment that I love how he didn't view segregation as a necessary thing, these were his people and that's where he wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
And, she made some trendy comment about like Elvis being woke or something like that. Like, he was. He was. In that, yeah.
Absolutely.
So there was that. All right. Gushing aside, are you ready to get down to it?
I'm ready.
Okay. Now the movie starts off, obviously it starts off with Colonel Tom Parker, but shortly after that we see Elvis as a little boy attending a gospel church revival and being absolutely enthralled by the music there. Now, do you think that part's true?
Yes.
It absolutely is. That is 100% true. The Hill was a Black neighborhood in Mississippi, and Elvis and his family lived there for a time, and during which he would attend these revival meetings and was incredibly inspired by the gospel music, so much so that it impacted his music for the length of his career and his life, for that matter.
Yeah.
That was the music that made him happiest. Also, the little boy that plays Elvis looks so much like, if you look up, and we're going to have to post so many side-by-side pictures with this episode. If you see young Elvis next to this little boy, they look so much alike. He has got that, because his hair was actually a lighter color. He dyed it black. Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. Elvis was almost a blonde when he was younger.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that little boy, he's got the lighter color hair, that he's got those big hound dog eyes that so many people go crazy for. Yeah, he looks a lot like him. So I was really impressed by that.
Yeah.
Now, Elvis was 19 when he performed live for the first time. And in the movie, it shows girls going absolutely apeshit right off the bat for him. Yes. Yeah. Now, do you think that's really how people responded to him right off the bat?
I don't know.
He had some awkward performances in the beginning part of his career when he was learning his craft. That's to be expected.
Okay.
But from the get-go, girls responded to him.
The ladies.
And his wiggling hips, and just lost their shit over him.
Yeah.
By today's standards, like, what he was doing seemed tame. I mean, he wiggled so freaking Michael Jackson could moonwalk and Prince could wear backless pants on MTV. Right. But back then, that was really risque.
Right. Because they saw it as the culture of what they didn't want to promote.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, I hate that so much.
Yeah, I agree.
Racism sucks.
Yeah. But I will say there were some parts in that, and the girls reacting to him, people reacting to him. The girl who her boyfriend called Elvis a derogatory term.
Yes.
And then she started screaming and couldn't control herself. I loved her. Yeah. But I also loved the guy in his first TV performance, and he started wiggling his hips. There was that young man watching the TV that you saw him have an awakening.
Yes.
He was like, uh-oh.
I do like the one where she's like, the mom says like, oh, please don't hurt my baby. And
yeah,
I
hurt him. They wanna, yeah, which is true.
Yeah.
That one boy just cracked me up though. It made me think of the the TikTok that's always going around. Am I attracted to this?
Yes.
No.
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, he absolutely was.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so in those early days, Colonel Parker really did launch a shit ton of Elvis merchandise, including like they showed in the movie, those I Hate Elvis buttons, which sold almost as good as his I Love Elvis ones. And Elvis did buy his mama the pink Cadillac that he promised. However, it wasn't quite the shade that they show in the film. The one in there was more of like a fuchsia color.
Yeah,
a
the
rosy
purple.
fuchsia. Yeah. The car he bought was a 1955 Cadillac Fleetwood Series 60. It was blue with a black roof when he purchased it. Elvis had it painted a specialty color that the dealership named Elvis Rose after that.
Aw.
Yeah. In truth, it was a light pastel pink, not like the almost purpley color that was shown.
Yeah.
And I have pictures, so I will post all this with it. Now, before we go any further, we need to talk about Colonel Tom Parker for a minute. He wasn't a colonel. His name wasn't Parker. His first name wasn't Tom. He was born Andreas Cornelius van Kulchik in the Netherlands. He ended up in America illegally and did, like the movie said, join the carnival to get by at first.
Yeah.
He did join the army for a while to avoid being deported.
Okay.
But later became a deserter to the army. The only reason he was called colonel had nothing to do with his time in the military. In reality, after helping the governor in Louisiana, Jimmy Davis, with his election campaign, Davis bestowed the rank of colonel on him in an honorary capacity.
Even though he was a slime ball.
Yeah. And he was a military deserter. Like,
Right.
I don't care if it's honorary. The guy was a military deserter. No.
Right.
He doesn't get the title.
No. Nope.
No.
No.
Yeah. Also, every time he would mention the snow job thing, I am not mature enough for somebody to say snow job. I'm sorry. I turned into a 12-year-old boy every time they said that. I was like, tee-hee. Okay, now, this one kind of bummed me out. The movie shows Elvis as being close friends with B.B. King.
Yes.
Sadly, that wasn't the case.
No.
They knew each other. They were acquaintances, but
not real
they
friends.
weren't like buddy at all.
Okay.
Like there's pictures of the two of them together, but it wasn't like they were hanging out at the club and talking all hours of the night. And I really wish they did. That was a really cool relationship there.
Yeah.
That said, Elvis's wiggling did get him into a lot of trouble.
Yes.
He caused a lot of riots, and in the movie, there was a performance in Memphis where he was told not to wiggle so much as his little finger, or he'd get arrested. He really was warned that, which, by the way, I loved that. I loved that.
Yeah, the little finky.
Yeah. In the movie, he says, "I'm going to show you what the real Elvis is like tonight." Now, do you think that was real or scripted?
I don't know.
No idea? No guess?
Real. I'm going to say real.
You're right. He did actually say that on a stage, when he was warned about all that. He did not launch into the song Trouble afterwards.
Oh, okay. Did he just like stand there, hold his finger, pinky, and was like, "Come at me, bro"?
I don't know. I think if you do that finger thing too much somewhere, you just morph into Danny from The Shining. Red Ram.
Oh, by the way, you showed.
By the way, I watched The Shining with my 2 teenagers. I knew when they were getting scared because they start making more jokes.
Yeah.
And then,
did they inch closer and closer?
The oldest ended up on me. She was sitting in my lap. The youngest moved. She was still in a different chair, but she moved closer to my end of the couch, and was like their phones were put down. They were leaning in towards the TV. You remember the part when Wendy, his wife, is running and like her hands are kind of flailing?
Yes.
They were both yelling at her. They were like, pump your arms, high knees, get to your kid. It was hysterical. They were like, why is she running like that?
Dramatics.
Yeah. And I don't want to go off on a tangent too much here because we have a lot to cover, but it ended and the credits rolled. And I was like, so what did you guys think? And both of them were like, that was the scariest movie I've ever seen in my entire life. And then they were like, can we watch an episode of Friends?
I need a palate cleanser.
Exactly. Yes, you can. We're going to watch Friends and we're going to laugh.
Yeah.
Okay, now back to business. Where were we? Taking care of business.
Taking care of business.
See how I rolled it in? Back to Elvis. But okay. So instead of launching into the song Trouble, which, seemed pretty perfect for that moment, he actually went into Heartbreak Hotel after that.
Oh, okay.
Primarily because Trouble was written in 1958 for the movie King Creole, so it didn't exist quite yet.
No, not yet.
No. Also, that night that they showed there did not end in a riot like it showed. So
no.
That one, he did cause riots. That particular night, there was not a riot. Now, following the Trouble scene with the riot, the movie shows that Colonel Parker didn't approve of Elvis's wiggling ways and that it got him into trouble. So he pushed him to join the army to keep him out of jail.
Right.
In reality, Parker was
drafted.
Well, he was drafted, but Parker wasn't against his wiggling. His wiggling ways were why he signed him in the first place. He loved all that. It's like what's that saying? All press is good press.
Right.
I mean, the newspapers are splashing Elvis's face everywhere because people are outraged about this. So it was free publicity, and Colonel Parker frickin' loved it. So he enjoyed all the publicity that was coming with Elvis's wiggling
because
hips.
that made him money.
Yeah, exactly.
It brought money in.
He was on every newspaper. Everybody had an opinion on Elvis because everybody knew who he was. He was the biggest star in the world.
Yeah.
The real reason, like you said, was because on March 24th, 1958, Elvis got drafted.
Yes.
Now, the one part that is true is that Colonel Parker wanted Elvis to come out of this looking like the boy next door.
Yes.
So he talked directly to the Pentagon to ensure that Elvis would be a regular soldier and not in the entertainment corps. He wanted him.
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Which to me, that's like a risky move.
Yeah,
this
because
is your
could
biggest.
Die.
Yeah, this is your biggest moneymaker, and you're sending him out on the front lines.
Right.
Ooh.
But it paid off for him.
It did. It did in a big way because, people changed how they saw him.
Yeah.
Now, here's something kind of cool that I didn't know. During his time when he was in the Army, Elvis served under General Colin Powell, who was a lieutenant at the time. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
History's neat.
Uh-huh.
When asked about it, Powell said Presley looked like every other pimple-faced soldier there, and he did as all the others did, properly saluting, saying sir left and right, and trying to get along. I love that.
Yeah.
He wasn't out there being a superstar. He was just
one of the regulars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, he called Elvis a pimple-faced kid.
I didn't see a pimple on that kid.
No.
But I mean, that's makeup and airbrushing and
oh my gosh. You know what? Who was I talking to today? Melissa Ringstead, one of my editors. We were talking about Elvis's eyes, and Austin Butler has very similar eyes to Elvis.
Yes.
It's the definition of bedroom eyes, that look that they have that you're just like, oh my.
Yes. And then the added guy liner.
I'm going to go off on a tangent again. Okay. You know, my husband is a manager at a Trader Joe's, and they have themed days that they do. And they had an emo day recently, and he had to open that day, which means he had to get up at like 2:00 in the morning. So he didn't dress up. But we're sitting outside, and he was telling me like the other costumes that people had. And I love my husband. He doesn't listen to this podcast, so it doesn't matter what I say. But I was only half listening. And he was telling me what other people were wearing. And then in the middle of it, he's like, well, if I didn't have to get up at 2 a.m., I was planning to wear. And he started like describing like a whole bunch of necklaces. And he was like, I was going to put the guy liner on, and I was going to wear a black t-shirt, and I was going to paint my nails black. And I had been scrolling on my phone, and I completely put my phone down and just looked at him. I was like, you have my attention. Go on.
Please do.
And he stopped. He's like, do you want me to do that now? I'm like, I kind of do.
The bathroom's right over there. My makeup's right here on the
makeup's
shelf.
right there. Take whatever you need. There's my jewelry box. Make it happen.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I took my daughter back to school shopping today.
Yes.
And she put this outfit on, and I was like, when did grunge come back in style? And she like looks at me, and I was like, kind of emo, kind of grunge. That's the look you're going for right now. And she's like, I don't know. I just like it. And I was like, I like it too.
Yeah. I see these teenagers walking around in flannel shirts and ripped up jeans and like construction boots with bangs. And that was literally me in high school. That's exactly what I wore.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
I mean, my like beginning years, I was like full on like parachute pants, black hair, black everything, black eyeliner. And then by the end, I kind of went more flannel jeans.
Mm-hmm. Because it's more comfortable.
It was a lot more comfortable. And the whole, when it rained, I didn't have like wet pants to my knees anymore.
Yeah. And you didn't look like, the Crow with your mascara running down your face.
Running. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was another thing that came out when I was in high school, the movie The Crow.
Oh, The Crow was so good.
Oh my gosh.
Good.
It was.
Yeah.
Okay, we're getting distracted.
I know.
All right. So this new persona of the boy next door, Elvis embraced it too. And after finishing basic training, which, by the way, in the movie where they show them clipping his hair, that was actually something he did in front of all the cameras. So those pictures are everywhere. He made the statement, the Army can do whatever he wants. No, the Army can do whatever it wants with me. For a minute, I made the Army a dude.
Yeah.
The Army can do whatever it wants with me. After that, he was sent to Friedberg, Germany in the 3rd Armored Division, where he donated all of his pay to charity.
Aw.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot that can be said about Elvis. He did have his good sides too. I think people focus on the negative so much with him, though.
Yeah.
And I have opinions about all of that too. But maybe if we get to the end and we haven't, gone over in time, I can talk about my feelings about some stuff a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was during his time in Germany that he met Priscilla. Okay. Now, by today's standards, their relationship started very questionably.
Yes.
I'm not going to say I condone it.
No.
I will say it was a very different time. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lay out the timeline for you and how things went, and everyone listening can form their own opinions. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, Priscilla was 14 and Elvis was in his early 20s when the two first met.
They are 10 years apart.
She visited him a few times, but sweet words and one kiss were all that happened at that time. And this is according to Priscilla herself.
Yeah.
Because it was a different time. As she says, it was an innocent time.
Yes.
Shortly after that, he came back to the United States, and she stayed in Germany for 2 more years.
Right, because she was with her father, right?
She was with her parents. Yeah. During that time, they talked on the phone and they exchanged letters, but they didn't see each other again in person until at the age of 16. Priscilla convinced her parents to let her visit him in Memphis a couple times.
Okay.
And she did. She went for a couple visits. Her parents made sure they were always chaperoned. They put a lot of trust in their 16-year-old daughter. And again, she says it was very innocent. After that, Priscilla begged her parents to allow her to move to Memphis to be with him. They only agreed under the terms that she would live in the guest house with Elvis's father, Vernon, and his second wife, and she would go to a Catholic all-girls school until she graduated. Which it seems you would want other boys around to possibly distract her, but whatever.
Oh, right.
You go off, you do your thing.
Boys that are her age?
Yeah. She went to the school and she did graduate. And during this time, it is rumored that Elvis had other girlfriends. So nobody is saying that the king is celibate during this time. He is rumored to have had other girlfriends during this time. It wasn't until Priscilla was 23 years old that the two of them finally got married in Vegas. Only after they were married did they have any kind of sexual relationship. So they had spent all that time together, and she claims she was a virgin on her wedding night. I wish you all could see Sandy's face. Again, these are her words, not mine.
I know.
There were 2 people in that room, and it wasn't either of us.
I know. And that's where I do kind of have a little bit of opinion and like more concern. Like, was he grooming her?
Yeah. And by today's standards, we know the word grooming. We didn't know it back then.
Right. And like, why were the parents okay? Were they, obviously he had money. Did they not have as much money? And we're hoping that this would give her that elevated status in society. Like,
yeah.
there's
so many cases where people, yeah.
Like, but see, if you think about it, if they met when she was 23 and he was 33, that's not so big of a deal.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
In some,
like you said, I think it's because we know the word grooming now, and we understand what that is. In the 1950s, the fact that he waited until she was 23 to touch her was probably considered noble. Yeah. Now we know it as, okay, but he was grooming her and making her love him this whole time. So,
right.
Again, you have to put it into the context of time, but I'm right there with you. There's a lot of parts of it. Like if my 14-year-old daughter came in to me today and was like, hey, so listen, I want to move to Vegas and, be with this celebrity. And I'd be like, no, we are not going to do that. No. But here's the flip side of that. Okay. Here's the flip side. She maintains that they were both able to control their impulses until she was 23. I know my own impulses. And if I was spending that much time with Elvis Presley in the prime of his life.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a kid at the age of 22.
So you know. There are impulses there.
Yeah.
So we see both sides of it. But I will say, whatever the truth is about the beginning part of their relationship,
right?
Priscilla never remarried.
No.
She still to this day has had one and only husband and swears that he was the love of her life. So we can say whatever we want about the beginning part of their relationship. We can't take away that truth. And that is he was the love of her life.
Right.
So
absolutely.
There's that.
Yep.
Okay. So after returning from Germany, Elvis, as it showed in the movie, went to Hollywood in a big way with a string of movies. until eventually the demand for those films kind of dwindled down to nothing.
Yeah.
Because they were the same thing over and over again. If
Right.
you've seen one Elvis movie, you've seen
You've
them all.
seen them all. Kind of like, what's his name? Now my brain just went blank. John Wayne.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you've seen one of them, you've seen them all.
Yeah.
The movie shows Elvis taking a meeting with Steve Binder and Bones Howe up by the Hollywood sign. Do you remember that scene?
Mhm.
That didn't exactly happen that way. They didn't really go up to the Hollywood sign. The special that followed obviously did. That was his big comeback special that everybody knows about. In the movie, it shows Elvis kind of stringing the Colonel along, that it was going to be a Christmas special idea and it turning into something else. That's not really how that happened. He did stand up to the Colonel and he did let him know that, no, we're going to do this a different way.
Yeah.
I understand why they showed it the way that they did, but he did stand up to him a little bit more there.
Yeah. Like, I really thought, like, in that scene that there would be, that's where Blue Christmas came from. And I was so hoping to hear that song because I love that song.
I do too. I have to hear it every Christmas.
Yeah.
Now here's a fun side note that, like, this blew my mind. Okay, so this was Elvis's big comeback performance, right? This is like the resurrection of his career. That stage performance is the first time Priscilla saw him perform live.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she met him in the military where his big stage performing days are done.
Yeah.
And then he came back to the United States where he started doing movies.
Yeah.
So she'd been on sets with him. She'd seen him perform on sets. This was the first time she saw him work an audience and perform live. Can you imagine? Like, you've been married to, like, she's known this man since she's 14. And this time she's like, you know, she's what, 24, 25. And she's seeing this side of him a decade later and is like, okay, baby, go off. Look what you can do.
And that's how Lisa Marie came.
Lisa was already born, but
okay.
I think they probably tried for baby number 2 that night. Yeah, I would be very impressed. Look what you can do. I think the closest I have to that is, oh my God, this is so stupid. I go off on the dumbest tangents. I don't know why any of you put up with me. I grew up a single, only child, and we had a basketball hoop outside. So I would go outside and shoot hoops by myself for hours because I was an only child. What the hell else are you going to do? And it wasn't until like within the last couple of years of my marriage that your uncle and I ever had an opportunity to shoot hoops together. And he was like, holy shit, you're not good at any sport. How are you good at this?
Only child.
Exactly, because this is one of the things I had to do.
Yep. I had kind of had that same little thing with Scott. I'm an only child as well.
Yeah.
And our local library, they have video games that you can borrow. So they had the old Lion King for like the Super Nintendo, but you could play it on the Switch.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm getting it and I'm playing it. And I started playing it. And he's like, how do you remember this? I was like, this is literally the only video game I had. And I sat playing it for hours because I had nobody to play with.
Yep.
And
Mine
like,
was
that was
the original Super Mario Brothers. Yep.
Yeah, this is your babysitter. Here you go.
Yep.
So I was really darn good at that video game.
The joys of being an only child. You know what else we can do really well? We can pandemic like a motherfucker because we know how to entertain ourselves for hours on end.
Yeah.
Everybody else is going stir crazy. We're like, what are you guys all worked up about?
What? Yeah. We got this. I didn't start going stir crazy until this year.
I trained my entire life for this. Okay. Back to the topic at hand. In the movie, it shows that Bobby Kennedy was shot during the taping of the comeback special. In reality, he was shot during rehearsals, not the actual taping.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's still
close.
It's close.
Yeah.
Kennedy's death did have a huge emotional impact that inspired the ballad "If I Can Dream."
Okay.
That acted as the finale for the special. In reality, Elvis had to hear that song 7 or 8 times before he was convinced to perform it. His fear was that it was a little too Broadway.
Okay.
Instead, finally, they won him over with it, and it went on to be the song that launched that special into everybody's heart, because it was what people needed to hear
Yes.
at that particular moment.
Yeah. And I like that they put that in the movie where it's like, people, they need to hear somebody talk about this, and you are huge.
Yes.
You need to do this.
Yes. Because we need
Say
more
something.
people to do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that it pissed me off so bad when the Colonel was like, no, Elvis doesn't. I'm not going to do my Colonel impression. I started to for a minute, and that was horrible. Don't do that. But he was like telling him not to do it. Did you see how easily I started to break into that?
You did really well.
Tell me you've watched this movie 1,000 times without telling me you've watched this movie 1,000 times. Anyways, yeah. It bothered me when he was trying to tell him to shut up about it, because
he bothered me throughout the whole movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know that's kind of what they wanted you to do. They wanted you to see the bad side of him, because they wanted you to see just how much he pulled the strings to make Elvis do certain things.
Yeah. And he did. And he manipulated him so badly from the very beginning.
Yes.
And this is something that I'm going to talk about later, but you know, there can be arguments made that Elvis wouldn't have been as big a success if it wasn't for the Colonel.
Right.
But it can also be said that he wouldn't have crashed and burned at such a young age.
So, yeah, like
he was 42.
Yeah.
That's young by today's standards.
Yeah.
It's horrible. Mm-hmm. It's horrible. And we're going to get into his death later, but Okay. Anyways, shortly after that is when the Colonel convinced Elvis to perform in Vegas. The way it happened wasn't quite as direct as the movie implied. First of all, the Colonel implies that the show will not come at any cost to Presley, and that absolutely was not the case. The band payroll just to pay the band to play for 4 weeks cost Elvis $80,000 out of pocket.
Holy crap.
Yeah. So sure, the cost was split, but it wasn't like he could just walk on stage and didn't have to pay anything. That's not how that worked.
No, because that's how most celebrities get their money, is the sales from their tickets go to part of it, the venue, part of it paying. Like, they don't just get to do it for free. There's cost for the building, for your band, for the setup crew, for like everything, parking attendants, everything.
Speaking of which, what the hell has happened to ticket prices for concerts?
Oh my gosh, that's ridiculous.
Like, I remember $50-$80 was what you would pay to go to a concert, and now you're looking at a couple $100 a ticket, easy for the cheap seats.
Well, I found a little hack, which a lot of people know this. If you go to the actual venue, you pay a lot less than going through Ticketmaster. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Ticketmaster has you're paying double pretty much because of their stupid fees.
Oh man. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not going through Ticketmaster anymore.
No, don't. Try and go local, like to the venue site to buy your tickets.
Okay. That's cool.
And that saves money. There's still some processing fees, but it's not almost the exact same price as your ticket.
Yeah. No, Ticketmaster is, I mean, but there's also some shows like I would love to see Hamilton. I'm obsessed with all things Hamilton, but the tickets are so expensive.
So expensive.
I'm going to have to win the lottery before I can take my family of 4 to see Hamilton. I mean, it's just so
Well,
expensive.
you mean your family of 6? 7?
8.
8. Well, Evan's kind of little.
Okay, so Evan doesn't get. Sorry, you don't get to go. You don't get to be in the room where it happens, young man.
I mean, he's only 5.
He's got to know the film backward and forward like the rest of us. I know Emma does. I've heard her belt it out.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Evan, he'll just sing "Shot." My brain's not thinking.
Well, of course he does.
Uh-huh.
That's the same kid that made us do the Toy Story Mania game at Disney, at Hollywood Studios. How many times did we do it that day?
Was it like 10?
Yeah. There was no lines
7?
that day.
10?
So
Yeah.
we kept giving him the option of what he wanted to do. And he
It was
called
like, get off, get back on.
Yeah,
Get
he was like,
off,
shooting game,
get back on.
shooting game.
Yeah.
My kids have PTSD from that. We go to Hollywood Studios now and they're like, girls, what do you want to do? Anything but the shooting game.
But if we come down and we go to Hollywood Studios, they will take
do
him
it.
on
We'll
it.
do it. What Evan wants.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
He's
Okay.
the only boy. He
I
gets
know.
away with whatever he wants.
Of course he does. Of course he does. Except with my youngest, because she will choose violence.
She will.
Yeah, she whipped a remote at her sister's face yesterday for no reason. That's a whole nother story.
I will have to
Okay.
hear that later.
Yeah. She met bunny ears. She meant to throw it at the table, but it hit her sister in the mouth.
That's better. Ouch.
Yeah. We've had to start telling her, please don't choose violence.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In the film, it was shown that it was a ploy to pay off Parker's gambling debts that motivated him to get Elvis to do shows there.
Right.
And it's true that once Parker experienced a taste of Vegas, he was hooked. They said that the Colonel was worth $1 million a year to the International Hotel with his gambling.
Oh, shit.
$1 million a year with his habit. That's good Lord.
That's a lot of money.
Mhm.
So I think we've said this before. I've never been to Vegas,
I know.
and I really want to go.
Yeah, that's another trip we need to take.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
Let's see. The last one we planned to go to Sleepy Hollow in Salem.
Sleepy Hollow and Salem.
And now we're going to plan a
the
trip
Lizzie
to Vegas.
Borden.
The Lizzie Borden one, yes. Yeah, you're not staying the night there.
No, you can. I'll visit you
Wait
until I'm like,
outside
okay,
with the
I'm
engine
gonna go.
running.
Yeah. And then Vegas.
We need, a girls' weekend in Vegas. Oh my gosh. You know what we need to do? We need to find a podcast conference that's in Vegas.
Done. Sold. Where do I sign up?
I know. We need to find one. We need to Google it. So if anybody listening knows of a podcast conference in Vegas, hook us up. We want to know.
Yes, please.
Yes. Okay, so more than $1 million a year to the International Hotel. A rumor floated around that Milton Prell of the International Hotel brokered the deal to get Vegas signed on with Elvis, to get Elvis signed on in Vegas by getting money from the mob.
Okay.
Yeah, this ties into our Dillinger episode.
Yeah.
Either way, we can all agree that Elvis was used as collateral in somebody's underhand deal. And
Absolutely.
that Colonel Parker's, the scene where he wrote the contract out on a napkin, that actually did happen. Yes. And I do think a lot of it tied in with the Colonel's debt. I mean, you got $1 million a year habit. There was something going on there. Here's another fun little thing I found. In the movie, it shows a heated scene where Elvis fires the Colonel on stage. That particular scene did not happen. In fact, Elvis died not knowing the truth about his manager's fake identity.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Or how much money he had milked out of him. He died not knowing any of that. But this scene in the movie may have been inspired by a situation that happened involving Hilton owner Baron Hilton.
Okay.
While Elvis was headlining there, he went to the home of an employee that he had befriended whose wife was dying of cancer. Sweet, right?
Yeah.
It's nice. Elvis went there and, had a little meet and greet with her, trying to put a smile on her face. Hilton found out about this and terminated the employee afterwards because of a rule barring contact between employees and hotel talent. That night, Elvis, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
He was trying to be nice and this guy was being a dick. That night, Elvis took to the stage and delivered a furious attack on Hilton, saying in front of an entire crowd that the guy wasn't worth a damn.
Good for him.
I hope he spilled the entire thing. Like,
Right.
this is what happened, and this guy's a jackass. I hope he told everybody everything.
Right.
I couldn't find confirmation that he did, but I want to think that he was like, I was trying to comfort this guy's dying wife, and he ended up losing his job because this guy's a prick.
Yeah. Like, I offered, not that he asked me.
Yes. Now, Parker obviously found out about this,
Yeah.
and him and Elvis fought long into the night about it. And kind of like what happens in the movie, it ended with Presley firing Parker.
Yeah.
And just like it shows in the movie, Parker wobbled his butt straight to his office and drew up a bill for what he believed Elvis owed him. It hasn't been confirmed exactly how much this bill was for, but there has been speculation it was somewhere between $2 and $10 million.
Wow. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a wide range.
It is, but still, whatever, and you're
Yeah.
looking at the 1970s, so by inflation standards, it's even more than it is now.
Right.
But that's whatever the bottom line was, the amount Elvis felt he couldn't pay, so he had no choice but to go back to work
Right.
for the Colonel.
And that's sad.
It really is. This guy, to this day, is the best-selling musical artist of all time.
Right.
And he was trapped by this freaking con artist.
Greedy asshole.
See,
I
took the diplomatic way. You went the other way.
I did. I think I'm just so over the greed of everybody.
Yeah.
Like, every single thing is so greedy right now. Corporations, people, like, come on.
It's horrible anymore.
Uh-huh.
And it's not just a brand new thing. I mean, if people can find a way to milk somebody out of money, they're going to do it.
Absolutely.
I mean, in my writing career, one of my very first books, I had a publishing company that signed me, and they said all sorts of glorious things about how they were going to sell my book, and it ended up to be a complete scam.
Right.
I think anybody who preys on the dreams and ambitions of another person is just the lowest form of life. That's just
Absolutely.
disgusting.
Right. Because, I can't. No.
It's okay. You can go. It's a podcast. We're supposed to talk.
Yes, but we can go off on a whole tangent. Like, just you did have a silver lining out of it. You got the company.
I didn't get the company. I formed a company.
I thought you took the company and were like, no.
No. They had left me and a whole bunch of other authors completely in the lurch. And, I have a business degree, and I consider myself a somewhat intelligent woman.
Yes.
So I reached out to two of the other authors that were in the same position as me, and I said, look, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm learning as I go, but if you guys want to trust me, I will form a publishing company, and I will publish your books, and we'll go forward from there.
Right.
And Anchor Group Publishing was formed, and we grew. We grew and grew. We had over 100 titles under our belt. The autobiography of Smash. Oh my gosh, what's the name of Smash Mouth? Yes, I always confuse it because there's Smash Mouth, and then there's a literary platform called Smashwords, and I always confuse the two. But we had their autobiography on there. It was a big thing. But the reason I closed it, and again, this is being transparent as a business, is that the self-publishing industry had grown to a point that I couldn't offer my authors anything more than what they could do for themselves.
Right.
And
it's not fair to take advantage of them.
Exactly. Once I got to that point, I was like, you know what, guys? anything I can do for you right now, you can do for yourselves, because there's all these different outlets available to you. So I don't want to feel like I'm ripping you off.
Right.
So I released everybody's contracts back to them, and I closed the publishing house down and focused on my own books.
Right.
So yeah, I totally went off on a tangent, but it's the same kind of thing of just being honest as a business person.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. Like, the greed just, it's everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And you could have taken a chance, or not a chance, but you could have taken well, somebody screwed over me, so I'm going to just not let these contracts go and give them back to them, and I'm going to keep their money.
Oh yeah, and then keep like talking the good talk of, well, I'm going to do this for you, and I'm going to do this for you, and never deliver. And no.
Right, and that's not right. So I just wish
I've always
more people
said, that more people did that. I've said from the very beginning that wherever I end up in my career, I want everyone around me to feel that like I've earned it and I got here by being a good person. I don't want anybody that has worked with me in the past to think that she got there by stepping on the necks of others, because I've worked with people that have that kind of mentality, and I'm gonna work for it. Yeah.
Like, that's kind of how I got pushed out of a couple promotions that I should have had.
Yeah,
by
almost being too nice.
Being too nice and being a woman.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a whole other episode we can get into.
Thing. Yeah.
All right, let's get back on track here. We're going off on a tangent. That's our thing. Okay. The film did get Elvis's pill addiction right. He was hooked on. Are you ready for this? He was hooked on opiates, tranquilizers, antihistamines, barbiturates, quaaludes, hormones, and sleeping pills.
Hormones?
That's the one that caught your attention? The antihistamines was the one that caught my attention.
Well, that one kind of makes sense. You're singing.
Okay. Like, well, hormones.
Nasal congestion, hormones. The other one that caught my attention was the tranquilizers, but I could see being so uppity on everything,
on all those other things,
that he needs to take that to be able to freaking knock himself out, because obviously, yes, exhaustion played a big role in his death, and like, the boy needed to sleep.
Yeah. Oh, all right. Listen, we're just going to get into it. All right. This is super gross. And anybody I'm not speaking ill of Elvis. I'm going by the reports that I've read.
Yeah.
All of these drugs together. Everyone always jokes about Elvis died on the toilet. Okay, listen, you don't even understand what really happened there. Okay. He was taking so many kind of medications that he was so stopped up. He had taken, when you do like if you have a medical treatment or something done, they have you like take a shot of like a milky substance so they can do pictures of your inside.
Your colonoscopy.
That kind of thing. He had that milky substance. He had that test done 3 months before he died, and it was still in his system because he hadn't been able to pass it.
Oh, shit.
That's what he needed to do.
Yeah.
Like, when people joke about this, it's not something to joke about that he died on the toilet. He was doing so many drugs. I mean, I've been, after my surgery, they tell you, you need to take something, you're going to get stopped up. That's not a joke. No. It really happens.
Stool softeners, laxatives, prune juice, like all the juice.
He was on so many things. Like, the hormones had to be because, I mean, he couldn't really function as a man because he was on these other medications. There was uppers, there was downers, there was all these kind of things, and it was wreaking havoc on his body. From his comeback special to when he died, it was 10 years?
Yeah. And
he went downhill that fast because of all these medications. That's terrifying. So, when people are like, well, that's why he died. It's not funny to me. It's not funny at all. It's something that we need to look at seriously. Like this was no joke. That
Right.
had to be excruciating for him. I can't even imagine.
Probably. Yeah.
So, anywho, I know I went off on a tangent about that, but
No, but
at
that's real, because if you like, people need to kind of recognize the signs of this stuff.
yes,
Like, drug use is rampant in the United States.
we don't even realize how many. Matthew
And
Perry,
it's-
when he was on Friends, he was addicted to pain medication the entire time.
Yeah. And like, that's the thing. It's prescription drugs.
Mm-hmm.
It's over-the-counter medication that's being taken too much. Like, you got to kind of recognize the signs a little bit and be able to push somebody to go to rehab and like just watch them.
Yeah. Well, just because they're not, shooting up doesn't mean they're not a drug addict.
Exactly.
I mean, Marilyn Monroe, it was pills combined with alcohol for her.
Yep.
It was the pills. They're a very serious thing that I think people think because a doctor prescribed it, it's fine. No. It's something you need to look out for.
That's why they don't prescribe you Vicodin anymore.
Yeah. Vicodin will put me on the floor. No time for that. I can't take
that. For me, I've taken it a few times and it did nothing to me. And that's scary, because if I was the type of person that had an addictive personality, I would be popping those left and right, because when I took it, it did nothing.
Really?
Yeah.
No, it made me like violently ill.
Yeah.
I didn't even get to ride a Vicodin high. I was just like, I'm going to pray to the porcelain god for the next 6 hours.
Like, I think it was like my wisdom teeth or something pulled out, and that's what they gave me for it. And like, it took the pain away, but it did nothing else.
Yeah.
So I could see where, the pain's gone. Let me take more and more and more.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
See, also, after my surgery, after my kidney stone, they gave me Oxy. I can't take that either. I
think that's a offshoot of what Vicodin is.
Yeah, I can't take that either. I nearly passed out at the airport.
Yeah.
So I guess pills are one thing you don't have to worry about with me. With me, it's more like falling into a hole or petting something I shouldn't have. That's what's going to kill me.
Being too curious.
Being too curious. What's in this mausoleum? Oh, shouldn't have gone in there. Yeah. Okay. But going along with what we're saying about the drugs, at the time of his death, there were 11 different kinds of drugs in his system.
Damn.
And that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot. Unfortunately, Priscilla didn't try to arrange for rehab for him like she did in the movie. In her book, Elvis and Me, she stated that he would check himself into the hospital from time to time, and she would call and check on him. She had this quote to say about the matter. People who ask that don't know Elvis. Elvis would no more have responded to an intervention than a demand to give up singing. He would have undoubtedly laughed away any attempt at an intervention. There's no one, including his father, who could have pulled that off. So that part didn't happen. Although, before we move on from there, the scene where he looks at her over the car and says, "I will always love you," just mouths those words.
Yeah.
That destroyed me. I ugly cried.
Yeah.
And I know that moment probably didn't happen between them, but I ugly cried.
Might have.
I'm sure in some
other, yeah.
Yeah. Because I don't think either of them ever felt that they were truly done with the other. I think both of them thought this was just something they were going through.
Right.
Or maybe I just choose to believe that. Okay, one element that they did get spot on was how Colonel Parker cheated Elvis out of a shit ton of money. A judge ruled in 1983. Nope. A judge ruled in 1980, 3 years after Elvis's death, that Colonel Parker defrauded Elvis and his state out of millions. Many even blame Colonel Parker for Elvis's death because of the way that he pushed him, and it drove Elvis to more drugs just to meet the demands expected of him.
Right.
Which, I mean, it makes sense. It's kind of like what happened to Julie Garland. They give you uppers to get you to perform and tranquilizers to knock you out at the end of the night.
Yeah.
And we talked about this before. Would he be a success without the Colonel? We don't know, but I honestly don't think that he would have died in the painfully tragic way he had if it wasn't for the Colonel.
Right.
Now, Priscilla Presley herself spoke on this topic and the movie when she said, "The story as we all know it doesn't have a happy ending, but I think you will understand a little bit more about Elvis's journey, penned by a director that put his heart and soul and many hours into this film." About the performances in the film, she added, "If my husband was here today, he'd say, 'Hot damn, you're me,' about how well Austin Butler captures him." How
That's
cute is that?
awesome.
Oh, I love that. As the film winds to the close, we hear Elvis mention being cast in A Star is Born alongside Barbra Streisand. This part breaks my heart. It's true that Babs did offer him the role for $500,000 plus 10% of the film's profits. But the Colonel countered back with $1 million, 50% of the royalties from the first dollar earned, plus $100,000 in expenses and song approval.
Ugh.
Yeah.
So is this the same A Star is Born as like A Star is Born that Lady Gaga did? Like, was
That's
it a
the
remake?
This
I love
one
that movie.
was Barbra Streisand and Kiefer Sutherland.
Okay.
And it was the outlandish demands of the Colonel that caused Barbara to walk away and offer the role to Kiefer Sutherland. And the movie was a huge hit.
Yeah.
So this could have been the resurrection of Elvis's career yet again.
Right.
But the Colonel got in the way and cost him the role.
And cost him his life.
And cost him his life. Breaking in here with a quick correction. I said Barbra Streisand starred in A Star is Born with Kiefer Sutherland, which is ridiculous. He was a toddler at the time. I know that. I meant to say Chris Christopherson, but I opened my mouth and Kiefer Sutherland came out. My apologies. Again, Chris Christopherson was her co-star. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
So we will never know what would have happened if he got that. But as my research wraps up and we can talk a little bit, we can just wrap things up here. It seemed fitting in light of all this to end with this quote by Elvis himself. "Truth is like the sun. You can shut it out for a time, but it ain't going away."
Right.
And eventually it all caught up with the Colonel. Unfortunately, it wasn't before, Elvis could
right. But maybe
escape.
if he hadn't have died when he did, the Colonel just kept taking away from them.
Yeah.
And I mean them by Elvis Presley and Priscilla and Lisa
Marie. Yeah. They could have lost
he
Graceland.
was literally taking money out of their pockets.
Yeah. And after Elvis's death, there was a lawsuit that followed that the Colonel then had no claim to Elvis's estate or anything.
Right.
So it was able to go to his family. I watched a little snippet of an interview today where apparently there was a time that Priscilla and her family were on hard times and someone mentioned selling Graceland, and she flat out said, "No, that's one thing I will never sell. I will never sell Graceland." And that just that makes my heart hurt because that's where they were together as a couple. That was the monument. Okay, so we need to add to our list Salem, Sleepy Hollow, Graceland, and Vegas. These are the places we need to go.
Yes.
Because I want to see it. I want to see Graceland.
Where's Graceland?
Memphis.
Tennessee? Memphis? Okay.
Tennessee.
Wait, maybe I've been there.
You've been to Graceland?
I think so. I think I was like 14, 15.
Who'd you go with?
My mom and Mike.
Really? No, I
Yeah.
can see that. I can see your
Yeah.
mom taking you there. We need to go together though, because you'll appreciate it more now.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was. I didn't care about anything then.
And we don't bring our
Especially
kids.
going. Yeah.
We don't bring our kids because mine are teenagers and they'll make snarky comments the whole time. We could bring Emma. We could bring Emma. She would not make snarky comments.
She'd be like,
she'd be like, I'm just so glad to be invited.
yes. I think they took me to like Opryland.
Oh, I've been
and,
to
like,
Opryland.
Like they just did a bunch of stuff, but I could be completely wrong. But
I've also been to Dollywood.
I've been to Dollywood.
Mm-hmm.
But I
it
don't
was
think
rainy,
it was
so
open.
we didn't do anything. Yeah. It was the
gonna
same
say,
thing.
I don't
it wasn't
think it was
open.
So we were just like, oh, hi. Yeah, Dollywood.
That's
okay.
what that is. Okay. Yeah, that's exactly how my experience with it.
Yeah.
But I want to go to Graceland. They have, apparently before you go in, they have like a Elvis museum now. And then you go
I will say
walk through
I've
the
never
house.
went in. It would have been just like looking at it from afar because you know
we need to actually go in.
Yeah. You know my mom. We can't go do things.
No, we don't do stuff.
Yeah.
So that's my whole summary on Elvis. All right, as we wind to a close here, I have to ask, what's your all-time favorite Elvis Presley song?
Really?
Yeah. You got to pick one on the spot.
I can't.
Really?
Yeah. Okay, if I have to pick one, it's going to be the Christmas song, Blue.
Blue Christmas. I can see
But
that.
then there's like Falling in Love with You.
Mm-hmm.
There's Hound Dog. There's Jailhouse Rock. Like, these are all the ones that I really like.
They're so good. Well, all of his songs, not all of them. Of course, there's some that are like, but the classics are classics for a reason, and I love them all.
Okay, what's yours?
Mine is Suspicious Minds. I love it so much.
Yes.
And he sings it in the movie. Yeah. And then he starts making out with all the girls in the audience while his wife is right there, which is weird, but
yeah.
I just, his voice in that song, I love it. And that's one of those songs that I just instinctively start singing along to.
I caught myself singing to quite a few of the songs. Yeah. I can't think of who was singing it. It was at that club. What was the name of the club?
Oh my gosh, I just totally choked on that. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Which one? Little Richard.
Yeah.
That was fantastic.
Yes. So that's why I was like,
I love the guy that played him. He was fantastic.
Yeah.
Although I'm not sure Little Richard ever stripped like that during a show.
Probably not. Yeah.
All right. So I hear the door opening and one of my creepy kids sneaking in behind me. So I guess we should probably wrap this episode up.
Probably.
All right. Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.